Fantastic. This time, can everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic. At this time, may we have a roll call, please?
Sorry, I'm late. All right, okay, Chair Wrench, Vice Chair Malecki, myself, President Alderman Courtney Day.
Here.
Commissioner Remington.
Here.
Commissioner Poborski. Commissioner Stanley.
Present.
Kevin Schlater.
Here.
Marion X.
Here.
City Engineer Glenn Morrow.
Here.
And DPW Del Borcher.
Here.
Anybody else?
Member.
Oh, sorry.
Present.
Sorry about that.
You have a finance director here too. You have our finance director here.
Oh, Finance Director.
Member of the Health Department.
I don't know your name.
Danielle Brown.
At this time, we'd like to open it up for a citizens' comment period. And since there are no citizens, we will close it right away. We'll move on to number 3, the approval of the minutes from the December meeting.
I had a couple comments. I wasn't here, but I read them. Under unfinished business 4B, there was a sentence, focus on compliance, cleanup not permitted person. That didn't make sense. I don't know what it should say.
What section was it under?
It was under 4B. Yeah, the fourth, down the fourth line, third line. It says there's already damage, destruction at, and that doesn't make sense either. There is already damage / destruction at property. I don't know I don't know what that means. And then it says currently there's no fine or ticketing ability for mess. Focus on compliance. Cleanup not permitted person.
Oh, that's when we were talking about that's when the police officer was about the city not having any ordinance for compliance to that pavilion. Is that section we're talking about?
Yeah, if I could clarify.
It is, yeah, if someone could clarify.
So there is already damage, destruction of property. We had a discussion about, we have a lot of vandalism happening right now.
There's to property maybe then instead of at property?
And all park properties, I believe, was the discussion. We talked about vandalism that's happening pretty much rampant. Currently, there's no fine or ticketing ability for mess. That's correct.
Right.
Let me expand. Basically, there's nothing in place to ticket someone if they make a mess.
So what does that mean though, cleanup not permitted person? I just think it could be stated better.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think you're
That
right.
might make sense.
The police officer knows that focus of the ordinance would be, he wanted the ordinance so he could focus on compliance. Because we talked about a couple different things. So we talked about the person who has the permit. We understand that they can clean up, otherwise we
Fine,
take
they
back
don't
their-
give them their deposit,
we
right?
don't get deposit. But we can't clean, if they're, for a not permitted person or non-permitted person, is the, so maybe the focus would be on cleanup for the non-permitted persons.
Yeah, I think his focus was just asking.
Oh, I kind of thought that, I listened to the minutes, that they wouldn't do that unless they received a complaint. They would not focus on coming to the park.
Correct.
So I think maybe instead of not permitted, maybe non-permitted But the focus is on the compliance and clean up for the non-permitted person. Focus. Your recollection?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
focus on compliance, cleanup for non-permitted.
Or persons, maybe.
But they said they wouldn't do that.
they weren't coming to act people.
Oh, so could I say if complaints?
Yeah, well, that was the second part where it says complaint-based.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's essentially what that was.
Complaint, oh, okay, maybe I can fit it in there, okay, cleanup for non-permitted persons based on complaints received, okay. Okay, and then the other thing was, on E, for unfinished business, it says that, this is second line, DOT up past target to monetary. I think she meant monastery,
Monastery.
okay? So I can have her update that. And the last thing is, I think it was just not removed from the previous meeting. It said I would not be present at December's meeting, but this was December's. So I'll just have her take that out of it.
We'd like to approve the minutes with the noted changes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the identified correction.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? We will jump to number 4, unfinished business. Letter A, update on park maintenance, gentlemen.
Pretty much, we're in winter mode, so we're not doing a whole lot. Shelley and her volunteers finished painting the panels. Those playground and did a really nice job. We got those back in place, so all the painting pretty much done. Correct?
Oh, yeah, they're all done.
That was a lot of work for, and Shelley, I think you had to think like a small kids that painted them originally, all those little panels, so you did a really nice job.
Looks brand new over there, so you guys over there, I encourage. Thanks for putting all those panels up and for giving, the shelter of the pavilion so that we could work in the winter times.
This might be the appropriate place to say that we need to schedule an appointment to sit down and talk about replacing the flooring this year.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up under letter D, but
Additionally, the guys, a big crew of guys go into Ernie Lake and cut all the brush down and the buckthorn out of there. Quite different. Nice. So, get a chance to take a look at Ernie Lake Park.
Looks like a total new park. It looks great.
Yep. Rentals this year just started, or they're going to be starting on Saturday. First rental at Ken Wendell. So we're getting ready for that. They're coming in pretty quick as they do every year. This department gets a lot of calls. That's pretty much it. We're kind of in winter mode and on some else.
Whatever happened to the aerators at Lake Ernie? Are they in water or did they take
They're
it out?
shut down for winter, I believe. I looked in the cabinet and it looks like someone that maintains them.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll jump to letter B, the draft ordinance to add municipal code section 18348D.
As noted a few minutes ago, approving the minutes, we had the police officer here last meeting to talk about his intent with needing an ordinance. So in your packet is what was included at council May 16, and I put at your table tonight The minutes from that meeting, you notice Alderman Barber moved to restrict this use of city pavilions with no restriction to party size, including signage with restriction. And then, so to show you what that may look like, this is what's in the municipal code right now, 183-48 regulations governing parks, A, B, and C. And then I was proposing add a section D that says the City Parks Commission may set rules and procedures for the authorized use of all park facilities. Period. Use of pavilions without proper authorization are prohibited. It's fairly vague. Gives you the ability to change, the sign as needed. So I guess that's what would go in the ordinance. The question I have is that still, I think that's the intent, but the question is, what would you want the sign to read? I guess big question. That the signage wording doesn't need to go in the municipal code, but I would like to tell Common Council about that, what you're thinking. Sure.
I thought we were going to re-vote on that.
So,
Council already voted.
But I thought then it came back
yeah,
because we didn't agree with some of it.
we talked about having a police officer come and discuss it, and he was here last month
I listened to it.
to have that discussion. So now it's in front of you. The fact that you're that's my recollection of where we left it. I could be.
I feel if we keep something very vague, it enables the police.
So the intent to keep it vague in the municipal code, that allows you, Parks Commission, say, however you word the sign, you need to make it more strict, less strict, more detailed. You have the ability to do that without having to go back to Common Council. Sure.
But by saying authorized use of the pavilions is prohibited, it's vague.
Correct. So what's prohibited? Unauthorized use.
Without a permit?
You want to make it a permit?
No, I think open pavilions should be open. If they're not reserved and somebody wants to use them, I think they should be able to use them. And that's my thought. I think they were there, and this is a problem that seems like it started fairly recently. There weren't any problems before, and we're penalizing a lot of people. For a few people, I don't know how often it happens. It doesn't sound like it happens on a real regular basis. And it just seems like we're punishing the people that want to use it, that live in the city, in an open pavilion. I can see if it's a closed pavilion, you have to get in there, you have, the electricity and all that stuff, but for an open pavilion, I don't think it's right. And that was the sense I got from the police officer. He commented that he felt that the park should be open. Anyone also. I don't know if you took that differently when he was here, but from listening to the minutes, that's what I took away.
I mean, others can comment, but my interpretation was that he was in favor of everyone being able to use them. This is really only to be used as a tool for those that are, if you will, abusing that privilege.
I came away with the sense it wouldn't be a problem if everybody acting about a large that are out. It would be a tool for them. Part of the main control.
I would also suggest that if the fear is that police are going to go start looking for these and tossing people out just because they find someone there, the Park Commission does have the right to modify what's prohibited? What's authorized? What means authorized?
Could something be said then, such as if complaints are received or something like that, so that someone's not seeking out citizens that are in there just having a little party, they're cleaning up their messes, it wasn't reserved. Could something like that be put in there instead?
You could. Desire the board.
Does everybody?
So I think sometimes when we feel the need, it's not necessarily, help me out, guys, but it's not necessarily someone else tattletelling, if you will. It's actually our cleaning person who's there saying, you know, it's time to clean up, and here's somebody who hasn't reserved it. You're making a mess or in the way to clean up. So,
Oh, do they come while they're still there?
yeah,
So you know who the people are?
Yes, but right now there's nothing to we'll kick them out.
Well, there's dawn to dusk or whatever. Oh, you're saying because then they would, but then that way you would be saying you can't be here without a permit.
Well, I guess I would say that it's not, if the group is there, you know, fellowshipping, that's fine. It's the pizza boxes and where they're making a mess of everything that want to require a lot of cleanup. So if me and a group of buddies are just sitting down because it's, you know, trying to get some shade, you know, having our drinking from water bottles or what have you, the cleaning person can still empty the trash cans and what have you. It's when they show up and somebody's having a big birthday party with the cake and pizza and can't really clean up because, you know, they're still in the process of making a mess.
But you don't know that they're not going to clean up. I mean, I've seen people in our neighborhood have birthday parties there without permits, and I know they're going to clean up after themselves.
You don't have to charge for the permits either. They could be almost be a free or nominal fee too.
Correct. I'm trying to understand the process from our perspective, from the city staff. So generally speaking, most of these rentals are going to occur on weekends, so outside of normal business hours. So am I correct to assume that staffing for whomever to come and do the cleanup after the rentals is scheduled based on knowing that the rentals occurred? So in this instance, if there are people using it and they don't know that they're there, the mess could be left there for days. Cause a whole host of other issues, public health related issues that I can't not think about. So I guess in that vein, I see kind of the validity of this from a city staffing perspective, because they would not know to come out to look for anything. I don't know that it's punitive toward residents for using the park so much as helping our staff not have to deal with larger messes or unknown messes because things were happening when they weren't aware of it.
What if we set like you're not allowed to have stuff that's we call it mess making stuff, say past 6 o'clock or something like that, so that we know that we will always be there after. Oh, so if we don't know, we won't go there. I see. They said if we don't know that someone's making a mess, we won't send somebody to clean up.
But just from you all working in the parks every day, I can only say specifically Payless. I'm over there every day. In the summertime, there's people every night. I mean, and they're eating 6 o'clock. They're coming from work and they're eating dinner. They're bringing their dinner in and that kind of thing. And they go under the pavilion and they sit on the tables and you just have those few bad actors that.
Agree. Not everybody. A few that we're trying to give the police department a tool to address.
I would say, if you could say something that if complaints are received, something about complaints being received, but because they said they're not going to come anyway and just search for people in there. But if something would be that, but if complaints are received for somebody using the pavilion without a permit, that's leaving a mess. But as a general rule, I think most, probably the majority, probably 95% of the people are cleaning up. They're bringing in takeout. They're putting their stuff in the garbage cans. And you can't, like you said, you can't say they're coming 6, 7 o'clock and they stay there till it gets dark.
And I'm going to ask for them to back me up or correct me, but even people that do clean up after themselves, when they put it in the trash can, still nuisance for raccoons and other things to get in and make messes. So if I did come with a bunch of pizza boxes and put things in the trash can, if no one comes by to empty the trash can at night, then...
But then you might as well say you can't eat at the tables either, because they could eat their pizza at a table. There's food on the tables all the time, people coming. You don't want to say you can't bring your lunch. You're bringing your kids there to play. You want them to eat something. And I totally understand there may be raccoons. I understand it both ways, but I just don't think we should, I don't think we should look for trouble. I think if we put something in there with the effect, again, if a complaint is received, the police department would have something for unauthorized use of pavilions. Because you could have somebody coming in there being very rowdy or playing music very loud or whatever. So if a complaint is received for unauthorized use, but I don't think it should be that unauthorized use is totally prohibited.
So I think I understand what you're trying to say, but how would you put that on a sign?
I don't know.
Well, I think that it's better to have a city ordinance, a loitering, littering, vandalism, park, a violation of city ordinance, rather than use of the facilities being an issue. Because
Yeah.
I understand the personnel issue, not enough people to do all the jobs. I also understand
Loitering, littering, and what was the other?
loitering,
Vandalism.
littering, and vandalism, or, what do we call it? When you add something to the property, like we have it at the VA where you can't come and put a tent up in the middle of our park on the property. You can't add anything to it, which would be your decorations, right, that you're talking about.
Enhancements, maybe?
That's a good word.
Enhancement.
Enhancement, that might be the word. I feel like something like that would be better because picnic in the park is sort of the idyllic family thing to do, and what I think a lot of people I know like to do is go and have dinner at the park, and we do use the pavilions. I do use the pavilions. We talked about Kayla's having the shade for family. Get a permit, gives you access to the restrooms or a closed locked area on some of the parks, and it gives you the ability to tell other people we've rented this space and we're using it. We still share a lot of the amenities in the park.
Right.
So telling people that it's a city ordinance that we're going to allow our police department to go by and then their best judgment how to make these calls, we're going to risk profiling, with certain groups of people. I see groups coming in and hookahs when we play pickleball under the pavilion, and they're there, and it's a community event for them. And I think it's fantastic that we have that in our community. And I wouldn't want that to be misrepresented as people smearing cake into the gravel or getting glitter everywhere or stuffing all of the toilet paper in the toilets. That's obvious vandalism, right? All your trash that's littering. So getting after the specific violation that we want to get after rather than punishing the community with saying you have
Unauthorized.
here's these amenities, but you can't use them.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to
The point
get
that
at.
I had made when we discussed it last time was that if I can't sit under the pavilion, then I'll just set up outside the pavilion. That would be acceptable if we're limiting it to just the pavilion space. To which we agreed, yeah, essentially you could move lawn chairs out into the park and sit there and do the exact same things. And it was people not managing their family members and these adolescents running wild, right, on the property too. I think that was discussed in one of our meetings too. I can't remember when I noted the time when we talked about it, but I feel like get after the problem. Don't make it so vague that it becomes interpretational and opens us up to some kind of scrutiny that we wouldn't want.
And I would say for open pavilions only, because you have to have a key to get in the closed one.
Yeah, just thinking out loud. Loitering, littering, and vandalism in pavilions without a vandalism be recorded. Anyway, without a permit, subject to fines and/or removal.
Right, and I think
They don't say complaint.
Courtney
based.
If you wanted to
add
change
enhancement.
vandalism, you might say altering,
Altering,
The
enhancing,
facility?
yeah, altering.
altering or enhancing.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm sure there's
altering, because
specific-
enhancing means like, I think that I'll change my word to altering because enhancement makes it seem like it's bettering it. So,
Loitering, littering, and alterations in pavilions without a permit, subject to fines or removal.
I like that. That would be
Yeah.
better than saying you can't use this pavilion without it.
When you define loitering, that just means sitting there, right?
But would it be like
Loitering would be like after dusk.
hours?
Being able to, we have the dawn to dusk policy, right? But then you're loitering on the property, maybe. Loitering probably has a legal definition. I'm
Again, I
not.
suggest loitering is not a problem. I'm just sitting there. Loitering's not an issue.
Yeah,
So littering
yeah, okay.
and alterations.
And vandalism's already on it?
I would take vandalism off because vandalism is restricted no matter,
Okay.
right?
Right, but it just kind of, yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. We have pavilion rules, signage that this had approved, and they're up. If you look at that signage, really redundant on what we're talking about. Groups who have a permit have priority of entire pavilion for usage. Please clean up after yourself by disposing of litter and garbage in the proper receptacle. So I don't know if really an additional sign is going to help. I mean, it's already out there. Making the public aware of these things that we're trying to tackle.
So you think with that sign and the addition of D, use of pavilions without proper authorization is prohibited. The authorization is spelled out on the page.
Well, the pavilion permitted verbiage is printed on those signs, but we're talking about non-permitted
Yeah.
use. So perhaps an addition of these rules apply to everyone,
Yeah.
How about use of pavilions not in something like not in accordance with posted signs prohibited or something?
Say that again?
I need to wordsmith this, but
Okay.
use of pavilions not in compliance with posted signage is prohibited. That would give the police, so a police officer would show up and say, you aren't following this rule on the sign, therefore I can. So,
Because it doesn't say anything on there that you can't use it, right, without a permit? It's just telling you if you are using
It
it.
says groups who have a permit have priority of entire
Okay.
silly string, confetti, paint, chalk, glitter, water balloons strictly prohibited. That covers a good
Yeah.
amount of things
Yeah.
that are a problem. W staff to clean up after. Please return picnic tables to a position. Charcoal grills, depending upon if they're allowed.
They're not.
Some of them are allowed, and it depends on the park.
Oh, okay.
So we were real careful as to what park allowed it, what didn't.
Okay.
Sales of goods or services is prohibited, and to report any problems on the day of your reservation.
So let me ask my staff, would use of pavilions not in accordance with posted signage? That's part of the ordinance, so a police officer can do that. That give you the freedom that you need. That give you the restrictions that you need, yet allow the freedom of things. I think there's saying that they want to be allowed to use it. They just want to make sure when they use it, they don't.
I think unfortunately, people were using it, and the police came. I think at the end of the day, people. It's unfortunate because you guys aren't have to put in ready to clean that are going to whether and try to pop up party on the night, destroy the pavilion. You guys aren't aware of it. Tuesday morning it happened, so it wasn't on your radar. I don't know a way around this to help W. If you say nobody can use pavilions ever, that's you leave it so that the if they see issues, probably everybody at the same time that doesn't. I know.
It's just any person.
Yeah.
Well, if the people aren't there, how would they? They're there?
If they're there,
Well, then they have a complaint, then
correct.
they can,
Then
so,
they
yeah.
can call.
So if
As
they're
of right now, if they're there, we could also people can say, well, we'll clean it up.
Sure.
Then they don't. The police are gone.
But but most people would clean it up, I'm not saying all. But aren't you saying because they're putting it in the garbage cans and the animals can get in there? Is
No,
that,
I'm talking about
they're just leaving it?
so, but if Michelle mentioned read the signage basically says you can't be making unless you've got a reservation, right?
It says clean. Please clean up after yourself by disposing of litter and garbage in the proper receptacle. And that's pavilion rules. To me, that's whether you're in there non-permitted or permitted. It's just pavilion rules.
So if you and I are eating pizza, have the box open, police comes by and says, you need that answer. Yeah, they can.
ordinance.
The way the ordinance says, Parks Commission can set rules and procedures. Use of pavilions not in accordance with the posted signage is prohibited.
Right.
So
I'm saying right now.
agreed.
Well, it says violation of pavilion rules and a violation of local and/or state laws can result in a fine. Right on the sign.
The police are asked. I'm not.
Well, that says a fine, but that doesn't. Just because a sign says that you can be fined, city ordinances right now don't allow us to fine them.
So we were supposed to give them schools. Something
Well,
different.
but what
I
would be, like you said, what would be the citing? They're eating a pizza, they're not done with it. Police officer says, clean up the park. Well, we're still eating our pizza, we'll put it away when we're done.
I don't
A
think
normal person is gonna do that.
I don't think they're going to go after the person
No.
having
Right,
40 that
where it's
show.
clearly a party.
Yeah.
And I think in that instance, if they do get called and there is something on the books, I would like to think that they would take a name of somebody that was there. So even if they say, hey, we're not done, we'll clean up when we're,
Give me your name.
and then, you know, if we come by, you know, after the fact and it's still a mess, then there is a name somewhere to go back to, much like if somebody had rented it, then the
Good
police would
idea.
have the name to go back to write the ticket.
It'd be nice if I could write this, that the police have the authority to ask for a deposit.
I'm all in favor of giving them a tool to help someone.
I mean, I think if we put that language in there, that would give them the ability to perhaps take a name because they are potentially outside of the rules.
Authorized use.
The authorized use, and that gives them a mechanism if they don't clean up that to say, hey, who was using this? When we call you, go back to them.
So that's a good thought. So we say use of pavilions not in accordance with posted signage is prohibited, period. Thinking out loud here, police officer may ask for names of, may ask for identification
To ensure compliance
to
with
ensure compliance.
park rules.
That's good.
Jesse may
Yes,
that
you will
apart.
rip that apart, but yes, something
Try
along
it.
those lines.
Float that
Who's
by the
Jesse?
legal team.
Oh, the city attorney.
I'm not sure you
Oh,
could
would,
ask a person in public for their ID.
think that
Yeah, Jesse
You
will rip
couldn't?
it apart.
you could? Did you say?
I think you have the right to say no. I don't think you
Yeah,
have
you
to put
can.
Well,
it.
you have a right to say no
Yeah.
about a lot of
But-
things. Yeah,
But again, I'd like to think most people probably would. I don't know.
I would, because I'm a rule follower.
I tell you what, I understand the intent.
The spirit.
I'll ask Jesse for guidance on what we can ask for, but the intent is we want to somehow identify someone that would be responsible in case they leave a mess. Or if we can't identify someone, then they can be kicked out. And again, this won't be for most people, it's for the
Yeah.
unusual. I'll run that by legal.
So will this come back here?
We need to come back, if I can have legal come up with something they're okay with.
I think
that's
just
your
so we
intent.
know what the final, what they decided,
I'd be more than happy to take it to common council and then let you know afterwards.
with this kind of language. Okay, all right.
We'll move to letter C, park facilities, reservation, and permitting policies.
So this item is on your agenda. You have a number of requests under new business for league reservations of facilities. So this is a context for you guys to continue the discussion about how you actually want to handle those reservations going forward. So the direction that was given last month was no new league reservations for the 24 season after March. An open question of whether or not we want to offer reservations for single dates for pickleball courts, and then special events like tournaments. Currently, they would still come to you just like other special events in the parks would. So this is kind of where we left it. And I also want to note Dale created a new version of what facilities are available. So there is.
Is that in our packet?
It was in your packet, but it's 10 pickleball courts at Legend Park. Vernon Park will have 4 on the tennis courts and then 4 designated pickleball. Pleasant View has not changed. Ken Wendell, same as well. So, and then Jack Workman has the one semifinal court. So you could, at this point, you have 5 requests in your packet, and I received an additional request for a league reservation this morning.
For pickleball? 5 requests? I only saw 2.
Sorry, 5 requests, 1, 2.
Or are you
4
talking
requests.
counting days?
No, there's 4 requests for courts.
County rec department and
Yep.
the.
Oh, I
school
see,
as
okay,
well.
the rec, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there's 4 requests for courts. I
Okay,
received 1 additional one this morning, and
okay,
I have not heard from Sam Creasy yet.
okay,
So,
okay.
like, and unfortunately, no one has come this evening, including the rec department. So the gentleman from the concert let me know he's unwell, but
Okay.
I think there had been a previous suggestion that after March that you not accept any more league reservations, and then make sure that all the remaining courts are first come first serve. Make sure that there's at least some area set aside every day for first come first serve. So pickleball is kind of dominating this conversation right now.
Yeah.
But then also the hope is that we can move towards a place where we have like a reservation system and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
and I brought this, was one of the things that we had talked about in April, and we really never did anything final on reserving courts.
We
Do
had
we
made
want
a
to?
move at the software that would allow us to input that kind
Right,
of.
but I'm just
system.
saying with these requests coming in now, it's only January. What if more come in?
So January, February, March would be the last meeting for league requests.
And are you talking league rec department? Because I see the one said they have a league they want on
Mhm.
Tuesday, Thursday.
I think after that point, if someone says, I want to reserve for a period of months, just say. So it's up to the commission what you want to do. That was the suggestion that has come up before, and you did that last year. But we're not accepting any more league reservations after, I think, June. For those types of requests, we did get a few more of them, and the commission had declined to hear them. The rest of
I didn't realize that. What if somebody wants to do a tournament?
that did
It's
that.
different.
That's different?
Yep.
Okay.
Tournaments are different,
Okay.
especially these.
Yep.
I think we're spending way too much time, and this is turning into a pickleball panel as opposed to a parks committee. As I've said before, anybody can reserve the entire year at any court for free. I could go home and request to reserve every pickleball court in the city every Tuesday night, and then that's open down, not to put up. That's completely against public space. And I understand if the rec department, anybody can sign up, but I have a problem with privately doing this for free. Or they might be charging people to join or they're not getting revenue. We don't know these things. I have a problem with it. So we do need to come up with a way for a reservation system like we talked about, and then be done with it. Because I think we have a bigger thing to worry about whether Jim and his 6 friends can play football every Tuesday night
I agree.
at a park. That's just the way I look
I
at it.
agree. And what I was going to, I do think that if they want to reserve, there should be some monetary. They want to reserve the courts. And like you said, to say you want it, you're saying there's nothing that says we can't do it, but should you do it, say you can have these every Tuesday, whatever. And I was actually thinking on one of the requests that, but Leah's not here, that perhaps, I don't think it's so much that they've outgrown, the group that wants to do this, they're more advanced players. They want to play with more advanced players. That if they talked with Leah, they could maybe make a night through the rec department specifically for advanced players at the same location, wouldn't be taken away from that. And then perhaps on a Saturday afternoon, reserving on a Saturday afternoon with Leah for advanced. Because they really want to, they're a higher level group. And I know what you're saying about the pickleball as well. This sport is just exploding, and there's more and more people playing all the time that I don't think it's something that you can, I know we'd like to not talk about it, but it's getting bigger and bigger. So, but I think if they want to reserve it, there should be a payment. And I also think the one could, I don't know what you think, Kristen, about this at all, what your thoughts are.
I think you're pointing at me because I play pickleball in our community on our Franklin department. Let me understand this correctly. Do we set the policy for the reservations as the parks, correct? So we just need to establish a policy for reserving, and I'm so glad that you said all those things you said, because I agree that that doesn't make sense to have our parks taken away from us by single cities who run their own. We also don't have any resource for discrimination or anything like that. But I do feel strongly that we should prioritize giving access to our rec department, who isn't with us in the city, Parks and Rec, right? But rec should be given first access. When they came last time, we talked about the hours. We had a community member who wanted access, so we shortened the time here by half an hour on the day, right, to give them an opportunity to play on those courts. We also had another group that came where we limited how many courts they could have, so we had one court that was open play. So reading through, I mean, I like that rec department as a policy. Any city department would be able to reserve the courts for a pay-to-play that's run through our system and that everybody has an opportunity to be able to sign up for. I agree with you, Sue. I think that we should challenge the rec department to expand the program and make a competitive league one night a week. Currently, we have 4 nights a week. They up the price for each day now is about between $30 and $36 for the winter season to play for the season. They get about, it says 70 on the website, but they expanded to the wait list. So we're talking over $9,000 for the winter season that goes towards the city for fixing things, problems, issues that you guys have with the use of the facilities, I would assume.
But that's because they have janitors there indoor. But I do agree they should split.
Talking Milwaukee County.
No, the city of Franklin
Rec
department has a reservation
Right,
system.
they
The one
get
that they
the
kind of
money.
invited us
Right.
into because we don't have one. I don't think that we should be doing rentals until we have the IT infrastructure set up to be able to take fees from people. And I think we had talked about 1.5 hours, setting max 2 periods per day, how many courts you can reserve. But we can't do that unless we have the tools to collect it. And we don't have the people, right, in the city to do that. They're currently using calendars and writing down pavilion rentals, right? So we cannot do it. So I also like that the Department of Education would have access. So if we wanted to prioritize, city gets their choice of days, then the Department of Education, because we're talking about future generations, kids learning programs, maybe senior learning programs, I don't know. But then individual citizens running their own on the side, we don't know if they're running a business or accepting donations or what they're doing with it. And having one person be the yes or no of you get on these courts tonight does not seem like the intent of our part. So if I was being asked, as you went and asked, I would say prioritize those city and state organizations to allow them to be able to schedule their use of the parks. Maybe keep in mind those limited hours, so there are before times that people could play before 5:30.
That man never showed up.
Oh,
Came here, yes.
No.
Nope.
We had the request for, and then that we would entertain requests for special use permits for tournaments, because I know there's a lot of interest in the community to have those brought in. We did get a new pay-to-play at the Rock, right? So there's that as well. If the competitive players want to go and play there, they could, and not take up city
Go where?
park.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I believe the Rock opened up.
Oh,
their
yeah, but they do. They're indoor.
indoor, right?
Yeah.
Pay-to-play.
Yeah.
But you're right, if we establish a policy, I think that we could,
Yeah, and if we could get the rec department to do the rest.
we could say that we won't entertain any more personal reservations except for special use until we have that software system in place and a policy.
Say single event. I could say I'm having a tournament every April, August. I would please. Yes, sir.
Two things, just one for clarification. One,
The rec department collects funds for the community rec department league for pickleball. I'm just saying that is generating a sizable amount of money for the rec department. I don't know how they use those funds though, but I'm assuming they go back to the city.
to us.
No, I think that.
No, to the city though, right?
No, it doesn't come to.
I think
Oh,
they
rec
should be
department
approached
funds,
to,
That's a school district.
to give half to the city for the
For our
court
community,
maintenance,
right.
whatever you have to do up there.
Second, residents of the city, all their upset. That's our, I'm not here to argue. Residents, they enjoy themselves. Promote them. Because they're quite upset.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot.
Probably the alderwoman. I don't know what you think.
I can say that I've gotten this.
Well, I can tell you people in the Franklin Rec Department League will give you the same feedback because we showed
Oh, yeah,
up
they
on
do
Thursday
say.
and they overbooked all of the 9 courts and we had 17 paddles on one side and 9 on the other and every court was full and people were waiting over 20 minutes to get back on a court after we had to cut down the hours. So, I mean, there's a need for more courts. They're not going to happen.
But to be able to, I really think the one, we should work with Leah on that about, unless anybody else thinks that they should be given 2 nights a week at Pleasant View for all 4 courts. And this one is, it sounds like, I don't know who this person is, if he's from the high school. Sounds like he started a pickleball club at the high school. And it's good to see, because more young people are getting in. So it sounds like this would be, sounds like high school kids anyway.
Well, I
And
think it's an instructor who's starting a pickleball club for the school. You look at their email addresses.
But again, I think the city should get, if you're gonna, reserving, then you should be able to collect some money. The city should be able to get some of it. If it's non-reserved, then you can just go and play if nobody's on the court.
I wish I was here so I could understand how that works with from the community. But for the
They're used
school,
for
I
lots
don't
of
think it should
different
be.
programs.
I don't think charge school, not students. You know?
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to think that if everything should be open for the public, not there should be associated.
Yeah,
Even
just
if
like
the school district's running it, I mean, if my kid wants to play football for the high school, he has to pay a fee.
Yes,
to play.
yes.
He wants to join the bowling team. If you want to join the pickleball club, there has to be associated.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, and I think we're starting to dive off into the weeds a little. I don't care what the rec department does as far as if they have a good league, bad league, and everything. That's their issue. I think our parks department should have a policy on how we go about booking things, the way we go about this. We spent a lot of time last year talking about baseball. Thought we came up with a policy. As far as pickleball, I think it was the last meeting we talked about when the courts are done and resurfaced. Those are going to be reservable. All the other pickleball courts in the city open for public use. And I know that's not going to meet demands, but we could have 100 courts. At the end of the day, the people need to open private clubs and do things on their own, try to and to take advantage of it while it's a hot spot. You know, whether it fades away like other factors. I think we coming up with policy directive.
So when can we finish working on the policy. If we,
So currently, if we don't have the software, I believe Leah from the rec department is more than willing to work to share, to take reservations. Watch last meeting.
I thought she said that too.
So I guess we will have to follow up with her. Go from there. I don't have a problem with pickleball being by the rec department or out of education because it's public. Okay, as long as there's that option, that's something that I share with the resident. If I can't get on a court Monday night because it's by the rec department, it's full, you'll just sign up. Parking. These are open.
So are you then saying that these requests that came in, that we would not approve them at Pleasant View?
I'm going to say since they didn't show up, I'm not going to entertain their request. Same with talk about.
Are they told that they have to show for this?
We always recommend that the representative.
Can I ask one more thing about pickleball? Sure. Sorry. This is to Dale and to Kevin. So in the last year, it might be the year before, I'm not sure, but for sure last year, the volunteers said to the rec department, we used to be free, learn to play, and we said, we want you to charge for it, and then whatever money is made, we want to give it to the city to be used for pickleball. I have a thought, and I was going to put, because I'm guessing we have maybe close to $600-700 now, but would a shed at the new location be something that you all might want, or what would be your suggestion? Because that box really isn't big enough. Because they said I wanted it to bring one time, and they said, no, we have to know what it's going to be used for. So if you can kind of give it a thought, and I can always get back to her, but I don't know if that was something, I didn't think that would be something you all would be putting up, and I don't know if that would be something you had mentioned, those high school kids that helped you with stuff over at the park. They're always looking for things, jobs to do. If that was something they could even build and have it placed.
Yeah, that would be an ask for the high school department. But that would have to be approved
By
as a donation.
Kevin and
right.
and,
I mean, any donation has to be approved by common
Right.
council. Yeah, like to hand over money has to be approved, right? Yeah.
I know the new pickleball courts don't have windscreens, so
Windscreens?
Maybe.
I think they probably would do that. Well, just let me know.
I guess we'll move on to the next item. D, Parks Commission request for information on personnel addition, capital outlay fund needs, equipment revolving fund needs, street improvement fund needs, major capital expenditures to be made with borrowed funds.
So I don't have an update for you at this time on any of this. If there is, Alderwoman Day mentioned permit software, and there's a number of items that we start talking for the budget cycle. But just to reiterate, what happened with the gap was that the budget was completed without specific capital recommendations. Going forward, there's going to be a process for the park that is being constructed and a number of other things that will need recommendation funding. So as of this minute, I don't have anything for you, but I do want to start compiling what are your requests for. I know. Oh, we also brought up the.
Right. Yeah.
So
we could talk about that? What's the steps for that?
Yes.
And that's 2024.
Yeah.
Current year.
I'd like to sit down and with you, myself, Tyler, Dale, Kevin, and talk about how to. I think you said you had some other specs for us to consider and look at. I need to find the old spec and compare the. Try to get a bid out this spring. I think, trying to remember, you and I talked about best time to close the place down. June?
That's
Early June would be ideal to close the playground down.
This year? Yeah, I thought we had.
About a week, right?
What's that?
About a week.
I believe so. I think the thought was we talked about maybe closing one side down and just leaving the other side open and switching, but I think we decided to close it, bite the bullet. And do it
the
all.
machinery that they have
The stage.
with not to have children running around hot machinery and more of a liability than anything. And I think to do it right, obviously we'd like to have it done before high will, but to do it right,
We just need to get together and talk about how to get it bid out. Let us know what you're scheduling.
okay. Sounds good. I sent out an email as well. I have not heard back about that as far as
The
on it.
the Saputo funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it. My impression from your email is that we have not. It's finished, but we have not submitted it. Is that correct? Okay. Let me cycle back to Saputo to get the finalized what they all need from us. If they need to talk to us again about anything, or if we can give them what we have, knowing that we have, the money to move forward with the full project. I think that's kind of what we were waiting on to make sure that we were able to move forward in this particular year with that match their funding cycle for their donation.
It's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah. So let me.
And Dale and I, we don't have any more additional information to put into that grant. Dale?
Yeah,
It's all ready to go. It's just
okay.
a matter of getting it.
Yep.
in their
I'll
hands.
I'll make that phone call tomorrow.
And we can put an RFP out without hearing back from that, correct?
What's that?
We can put an RFP out without having that grant funding.
I think so.
I think
We have to
I
get
think
permission
so.
from Common Council to bid something. I think after we meet, I think an update to Common Council and get their approval to bid it.
Yeah. Looking in Danielle's direction to make sure that we're not over promising anything. Okay.
All right.
It was my understanding.
I was just saying it's in the budget.
It was my understanding when you asked the time frame that it was going to take a little longer because it's going to take at least 3-4 days to rip the old floor out. The contractor that we talked to mentioned that he might want a little deeper surface, so we would have to degrade the subgrade. And then they wanted more time for curing also. So it was my understanding it was like 3 weeks a month that it would be done. Maybe someone.
Not really an expert, so we'll have to do some checking.
Sounds good. I guess I'll move to letter E, parks and marketing materials.
Yep, so the brochure that Commissioner Malarkey and Commissioner have been working on will be going to Common Council on the next agenda. I have to confer with finance about options might exist, but obviously the recommendation would be to publish it on the city's website. So I haven't gotten any additional feedback on it, so I'm going to send forward the last draft that you provided me with, the comments that they have. but it'll be on that agenda, so.
Were you able to print out the last one?
No. So I have a printed copy of it, but that is a good point. So,
I thought like a few years ago, I mentioned one. Anything smaller, some sizes.
yeah, I'll have to check with Gail because I haven't tried to print it since the last pack.
Yeah, you'll probably be able to.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because if it can't print it, it'll be a problem.
Yeah, and just call me or text me.
Yeah, I will check on that tomorrow morning. because,
Okay.
I have to get that council action sheet. It's ready without I haven't printed it.
Right.
So.
Draft.
Yeah, it says that. So it's a draft and it talks about the photography on it. The work up to this point with review with all of the departments and with the commission. So,
Are you gonna have the city attorney look over it, like after further along?
I mean, I can have him do that, but I would actually say that I would feel comfortable with his office and the primary reviewer on that, and then
Right.
the rest of staff.
Right.
And the city attorney is like, his time
Overwhelmed.
is, yeah. That would, it'd be worth it to have him double check anything we're not certain about, but we're probably be specific about reviewing it versus like, he's looking at the whole thing.
Right.
So, second. Yep. So I will let everyone know what the feedback is on that.
Move to letter F, update on trail projects.
We're here for the budget, right? Are you here for the budget? Last meeting, I think I ran through everything. The only ones that really have to update South 116th Street. I just got permission from Common Council to pay our consultant more money. The situation is that trail is going to be across an old railroad, and surprise, surprise, they found some arsenic in the soil, railroad ties. I'm told it's very unusual for DNR to ask for additional testing. They did. So we had the option of either hauling out everything and take it to a landfill, estimated roughly $400,000, or do additional testing to show exactly where it is. We plan to cover it with a paved trail and soil on the side. So we chose a $40,000 estimated consulting fee to hopefully take care of that. So it's still progressing. St. Martin Tours. I actually saw a guy in the gym this morning from the church, and I said I was getting ready to call you and figure out what the church's decision was, and he said, well, he thought they were waiting on the city. So he's going to talk to his side. We're going to get together and maybe get a proposal on what could be done this year, and we'll try to get an estimate, talk to finance and see how that might fit in our budget. Yeah. The Ryan Creek Trail, we've been going back and forth with the developer who's trying to donate the land to us so we can build a trail. They want a very high valuation of the trail, and we think that's inappropriate for the IRS to say that the land is worth as much as they think it is. We're talking order of magnitude 20, 30 times what we think it's. Until they get that decided, that trail won't go anywhere, but I think they are trying to make progress.
What difference does that make if he's donating it?
That's a good question. I guess the thought was you're cheating the IRS.
Our responsibility.
Well, it's being discussed.
So what is he, like he can claim it on his taxes as a big donation? Oh, okay.
And then still probably not to the point, but getting ready to sit down with finance and talk about where we are with our park impact fees and how all the projects fit into it. And one of the projects we shelved a couple of years ago, we bought Southwest Park, may or may not Rapid side, most specifically, probably the Ryan Creek Trail where we would start. So I had a conversation with the school, new school folks. And, they're still amenable to letting that happen on their, called the Archdiocese property between 92nd and 8th Street.
Working really hard on getting the park impact. As of literally right before I walked in here, I got everything. So our good through April of 2025 is where we're at with our. But I would say that we should still focus on those exception of park impact along for 13 years now.
And Thursday night, I don't remember what time at the library, there is a meeting for all the residents along Loomis from St. Martin's to Rawson, because we do plan to have DOT put a 6-foot pathway in from, again, St. Martin's up to Rawson. Basically be on this side of the road, go along from the police station, City Hall, so forth, and all the way up the. Any questions about any of the other trails? If not,
Thursday night.
what's that?
Thursday.
Thursday night. I believe it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to duck out unless there's any questions about anything.
Thank you. We'll go to letter G, Combined Parks and Environmental Commission.
Here, I'm gonna end. So my update for this item is that the city attorney's office and I have both compiled a little bit of research that I'm passing out. I'm sorry that I didn't get the packet. But I want to kind of briefly canvass what the enabling statutes are for you currently. And as this research continues, I'm kind of finding out more and more about the history of the Parks Commission. But the short version is that I touched on this briefly because I'd gotten this information prior to our last meeting, but the Parks Commission is enabled under state statutes as well as under our own municipal ordinances. So the city attorney's research is for you guys to look at, and you can look up the individual statutes, but every city may create by ordinance a board of parks commissioners subject to this section of the state ordinance state law, organized by the Common Council. In cities under 150,000, they may make an estimate of expenditures. So you have a fiduciary power, incidental expenses, and estimate of the necessary amounts for purchase of land for parks, boulevards, pleasure drives, etc. So that is enabled under state law. The Environmental Commission actually doesn't have a similar enabling law at the state level, but it is in the municipal code. So the Parks Commission is in the municipal code, and the Environmental Commission is in the municipal code. In addition, the Environmental Commission, and this is kind of the major task that differs that they do, where this is a big point of difference, is that they are reviewers for a type of variance called a natural resource special exception. And so they must make a recommendation to the Land Common Council regarding whether or not a variance meets the necessary criteria if someone wants to impact a natural resource in the city in a way that is beyond what our ordinance allows. So they regulate what's called, it's Part 4 of the Unified Development Ordinance. They oversee the variance process for that. And they have to make a recommendation about whether or not someone's request to impact a wetland, impact a woodland, etc., is reasonable. The final decision for that is always made by Common Council, but they are the first reviewer of all of those applications. And so I wanted to make you aware of that. I didn't provide the ordinances for that, but if you're interested, I can share that information now. We are currently updating our Unified Development Ordinance, so this is the text that they're overseeing change pretty dramatically. The way that it's implemented will be different, but the role probably won't change that much. So this is a responsibility that a combined commission would have under the current structure of the code. So, like I said, this is kind of an ongoing project to figure out if this is feasible and appropriate to do. But that is probably one of the major differences that you should be aware of. So, if you have any questions about any of this material, I know you didn't have it to look at previously. I'm happy to for that. I can happily answer any question you might have about the natural.
I don't know.
Okay. One thing I will note specific to that is that at present, any NRSE that is not for a single-family residential property requires what's called mitigation. So if someone impacts a wetland, if someone removes trees, etc., they're required to then mitigate or provide 1.5. So like if someone impacts an acre, they have to provide 1.5 acres of whatever the natural resource that they impact. And the way that our ordinances are written, it's required that that occur, if possible, in the same property, which is kind of difficult. So part of the revised ordinance, the hope is that we'll be able to enable that mitigation to occur in city parks to allow for like natural resource restoration, wetland restoration, woodland restoration here in the city. So there's going to be a goal of having those kinds of credits forward as like for Water Tower Park, the wetland restoration would usually be funded by a developer who needed to impact a wetland, for example, for a crossing. But then, and they had a reasonable reason to do that. There's a whole permitting process that's required, but it does, the NRSC is the local permitting process, and then their mitigation credits could be applied somewhere with parks. So I'll let you guys hang out with this information that I provided today. Are there any other questions about where we are with this? Or
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have one. Just in comparison to other cities, is it typical to have the parks and environment, or is it something? I guess
it depends on like the mandate of the commission. So actually, I learned just recently that Franklin actually they were combined up until year 2000. So they were a combined commission, and their mandate was just over like open space. So I haven't done like their case research, but I can certainly look.
Well, I'm a non-voting member, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a look at that. I think it would be helpful for my information too. So, for example, Shorewood has its own independent environmental commission. They take a very active role in waste management, other environmental programs. So, but then other communities don't have an environmental at all. And I would just take a quick hit look and say, prior to it was actually the Environmental Commission. So I don't think I brought the ordinances with me, but the Recreation Department, and I'm still going back in time in terms of like what's the history of the commission. To my knowledge, the Recreation Department has always been under the school district, separate from. Okay.
Actually, I worked for the city of Franklin at the rec department.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and then it's over when after I left.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't want to date myself. It was like,
You're nice.
it would be like probably in the 80s, I want to say early 80s.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting question too, because much later on your agenda you have the question about a Parks and Rec directorship, and it appears that there's been a lot of different iterations of how the city has chosen to structure Parks Department, the recreation programming. I don't know a ton about it in terms of like going back, but have recently seen that there's been, and that appears to be the case with of other commissions where they're combined or they're split apart, their powers change, that kind of thing. So,
Well, I think the school district wanted to have their own program. I think they had grants coming in to include the adults more. Does that make sense? Like to get more adults coming in, like adult education.
yeah. So I actually am in the process of hoping to meet with Director of Recreation Education Program and the city administrator this month, kind of talk about a lot of the issues that have come up in this commission. See like where, you know, as we talk about share permitting software, share tools. I know that one of the things that had come up in the past was having a representative from the rec department on the Parks Commission or a combined commission. That was something, the original thinking about this that Lori Miller was doing. She felt that that would be a good idea. And that is something to consider regardless of the outcome of this specific discussion is would you want a representative from the recreation department on your commission or someone to appear regularly as a representative?
I think that's a great idea.
We'll say on our Franklin website too that we are under Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
Title. That's
Yes,
confusing.
it's very
confusing.
That, but then it does say highway/parks.
It is very.
Can I just ask Marion, the idea was presented to the other commission as well.
Yes.
Do they have any thoughts?
They had some concerns. I think there's kind of an overlap of like we don't want to get lost in responsibilities, not be appropriately represented and followed through on. So, but that commission cannot make quorum. They have never been able to recruit during the time that so I realize that that's not the only reason why they have a concern. Why
is that? Why is it so difficult?
I don't know.
I mean, they've only got like 3 people there, right?
The commission is supposed to have 7 members.
I know, but they've only had 3.
Currently, they have 4. They would not be able to meet otherwise. So there's 4 total members, 3 vacancies. There's 1 person that has expressed interest. That, like, my roster of people that are interested includes 2 people that have already applied. So, yeah.
I think with Franklin, people just don't know that these openings exist and stuff. They just don't know anything about Franklin. It's like you're like a hidden place here. I think you have to, like, you have the city news, that little flyer that goes out and stuff. Maybe it could be expanded or something to include some of these things that we're looking for people to serve on some of these things. Because it's like, I know you work for the city and you know all this stuff, but the rest of the world does not know about this stuff.
Yeah.
I think too, it's that for some of the non, I guess, flashier groups, no one really knows what they do. Not only that, or that they even exist. So I think it's also, I think part of the problem with Environmental Commission is that I don't think a lot of people know exactly what it is that they do, and the UDO piece is an important piece, but I think that might be enough to scare people away and be like, I don't know anything about that, so I don't want to do that. Right. So,
Yeah.
Then it becomes, where, you don't need to know everything about it to be out, you learn as you go kind of thing. So I think.
I do a training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, I think it's, your point is,
right.
is valid that a lot of people don't know what's there, or don't even know what the group do.
I would just have to say that it seems our meetings have gotten longer, a lot more in-depth discussion, and it would be harder to have another group in, extend it.
You just need to spice it up. Invite people out there.
Oh, yes, there are.
There's a ton of them.
We'll jump ahead to new business. Skip to letter F. Department Director, Policy Overview.
So this item, I don't have anything for you because this is your chance to sort of say what discussion you want to have about this. So the chair had requested this item placed on the agenda because, as you can see, there's sort of more and more projects and policy decisions that are coming forward to the commission, and you seem to be getting tasked with some things that are not a good use of time. So we've, jumped over the discussion about pickleball. I am going to ask that you go back and take a decision on each of those before we leave, so that I can let people know specific outcomes for their item. But one of the things that has come up a few times, changing structure of how things are run at the city in order to better serve the park system and this commission. So currently, the Parks Department is part of the city engineering department and public works. Permits are reviewed by the clerk's office unless there's something special about them, and then the planning department handles the commission agenda and the implementation of the comprehensive outdoor recreation. It appears that so we're staffing, the planning department is technically on your assigned staff now. So the ordinances that originally created the current iteration of this commission refer to a parks director. So I just discovered that earlier this week. So again, this is something that there's been a lot of different sort of approaches to how parks are handled, but given the volume of requests that are coming through for things, type of decisions that are being made, I am not the right person to represent this commission or the Parks Department for some of those discussions. And Glenn, in his focus as the city engineer, he has a much broader set of responsibilities than Kevin. So those discussions are would it be appropriate to have, if not a director, which has come up a few times, then maybe an administrator designated to specifically to the parks overall, that works with the commission, that works with the rec department, that works with public works, that works with the clerk's office, to be that central point, because right now having 4 different points of contact is creating a lot of confusion. And then there's, of course, Parks and Rec the Recreation Department is a totally separate entity. And also because I think there are some decisions that are being made by this commission that could be set the rules and then they can be implemented by staff. So you're kind of taking on a lot of decisions are coming to you that are things that it could be, let's make one decision one time and have that apply going forward as opposed to individually reviewing. So I'm opening the floor to that discussion at the request of the chair, but I wanted to provide that background because it's come up repeatedly, but past time to probably.
So is this asking for a new position?
Potentially. What do you recommend?
I think it would be good idea.
Would it be full-time?
I think it would depend on the scope. So I can ask the HR department what the previous parks director, what the scope of their role was.
Or would it be like, I don't know how many people are in your department, Marion? You know, or would it be divvied up, different things be divvied up between, because you sure have a brunt of it. Dedicated?
Yeah, just to clarify, so I'm a planner, and I am responsible for the implementation of work, but the scope of what this is, encompasses budgeting, encompasses essentially staff management, encompasses permitting processes, all of those. My area of responsibility, my current job description, land use, and that includes the parks. So, and then as assigned, I have become the de facto parks administrator for the commission, but that is not my area of expertise. It's something that we better introduce.
That'd be good.
It's so beneficial to have it.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a question of if, it's of how soon or when. It's something that's going to happen.
When did we have a park director? Reference that
It was in the 90s, and then I started to go back through the budgets to see when the position was eliminated, but what was readily accessible only went back to 2015. So there's a gap between when that person is talked about in the segment looked at versus the budget. So that I have a 10-year gap that I don't know when it stopped, which is like 1998.
Wasn't it
Dale, do you know?
Yes,
are you
it
aware of
was
any?
Ken.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was Ken Wendell, but he was in charge of the parks and the recreation.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was a secretary for him. Yes. So I'm really ancient, you guys. But I was young. I was in high school yet. So yes. So he was the guy that was, Then Mr. Magna came in, like he was on the board, the parks board and stuff. Yep. So like when you have all these names coming through, that he was working. I'm really.
They were real people.
Yes, they are real people. They were. Mr. Wendell was around for a long time.
Not just the name of the park.
Right.
Yep.
I guess a couple of questions. At the route of going to parks director is overseeing parks and recreation. Separate. So we're and take off other office staff. Paperwork associated with that burden on clerk, W, planning person on those lines, or would completely separate parks department, director, staff, maintenance. I don't know what the budget would all be open to.
Yep. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making a list of kind of questions.
Yes.
So we have convened a parks work internally that was looking at parks permitting software. It included all of those departments. And get the band back together. The end of this month start. So I've captured so far would it be a full-time or a part-time position, a director, administrative. What was the position like for? So just what is basically we're scoping out, like creating a scope of what this person will be.
Well, he would be coordinating all these things with just getting them all together and stuff, and the DPW when they need to be,
Right.
and the clerks what they're right.
Yeah.
It's on our website that says the Parks Director provides technical and staff assistance. That's from the so it's on our Parks Commission. I think that's old verbiage that's on the website, but
the municipal code says planning manager. So at some point the ordinance was updated. That I've only gotten so far.
Right. I guess I think what does the city have? Parks. like that. And then we're adding Glenson Park,
Right.
which, yeah, and then
And the
And the
Southwest
big
Park.
with the Southwest
Yes.
Park, and I'm sure Trail. Park. And at the end of the day, there needs to be a policy in place that mission doesn't all day.
Mhm.
And
We talked about the trail ed, being Franklin, which connect to other communities, have some outreach
Yeah.
opportunities as well.
It would also be useful in the sense, other staff has done a great job of coordinating with other levels of government, but having a specific contact for the county park system, or trail system, et cetera. 'Cause I find them, I'm trying to reconcile the corp and what we can and trails. It's difficult to maintain that relationship. Not something I'm working on today. So I think that would be useful as well. Overlap in the kinds of. I will also note we are not totally sure what the plan is in terms of going forward funding for the redraft of the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. It's part of what's called the master plan. Have to be done together because both require this demography. Don't anticipate that happening. At the soonest, it would be next year. But that's something that there's a lot of overlap in facilities, that kind of thing, that we could start to work towards reducing duplication and like clarifying what everyone's doing in Franklin under that plan. Great to have a person who understands the sort of structure of all of the parks at a greater level of depth. There's different involved. Okay, so I have this list of questions for the work group, and that group includes the city administrator. And what I would suggest is that I'll start to get some answers together, and I think this discussion, so the discussion can continue at a future meeting, but if you have other questions to think of in the interim, please let me know, because it's going to be kind of an ongoing. We're not going to arrive at like, here's what we're going to do at the next meeting, I don't think, but we can get this position that you want to involve live. So at some point you'll have to make a recommendation to the council about this, just matter, so they can at least understand that the commission's discussing this.
Yeah, budget season starts technically in the summer, so
Yep.
even though we don't pass the budget until mid-November generally, the whole piece where you start bringing all of, especially personnel changes, the sooner we can get that in, if that's the direction that the group wants to go, the better, to start trying to figure out how to plug those pieces in. Personnel is always a big one because everybody wants more staff, so.
Yeah.
I think there's a fair argument for this, considering how many departments are impacted by it, to, centralize it, to ease, the stress that's being put on at least 4 departments up there, I think is a valid ask.
Yep. And it's, I mean, so that would be
Something
great.
we need to make a motion.
So, last question.
I'll bring more information to you at your next meeting, and maybe start to craft.
Also, just want to mention the tie-in as well, because
Yes.
they have a plan for making the city healthier, that person would also be a liaison with the department.
And that's a good point. I know that their goals in 2024 have to I'm probably misstating that, but in general, that they have, walking. I have a goal when we start working on work to increase that work. So, just part of it. But, so, okay.
Discuss.
If you would please, whoops.
I guess the first one, if I remember, was for the concert.
Yep, and I can't pronounce his last name. Mr. Scherer has COVID. He's but he didn't want to come.
That's all right, stay home.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah.
So it's all right.
Does anybody have any issues with the concert?
Well, it's the same as always, isn't it?
Dale, do you guys have any issues?
No, last year they were good. I'm not driving it. Better last year. No
And
problem.
he even mentions that
Make a motion to approve the 20 the park by Douglas.
I said,
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? You guys have it. The next item on the list was Franklin Rec Department pickleball leagues. They're looking to use courts at Burke Park Monday through Thursday evenings, 5:30 to 8 from April to October 9th. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11. Have any?
Do we have, would we say anything, or is it just kind of would be presumed that when the new courts are complete, they'll move over?
I think we talked about
I wasn't here. I don't recall her saying that, but I might
I think it
have
was
missed it.
dependent on when
Mm-hmm.
they talked about leaving courts open for public. But I think in general, I don't have any issue with the rec department. Have to some of the,
Okay.
it's not about.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Have it. Next request is from the rec department for youth tennis. Reserve the tennis courts at former Parks Director Wendell Park. Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. June 17th to June 28th. Then they take 10 days off. Come back July 8th to July 19th. Then they take some more time off. Come back August 5th to 16th.
I would make a motion to approve.
There.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? You guys have it. The next request is for the Franklin High School Pickleball Club. Reserve pickleball courts at Pleasant View, Tuesday and Friday afternoons, 3 to 4:30 from March 1st until June 10th. Yeah, those courts probably aren't ready on March 1st yet, are they?
It depends on the weather. I mean,
Sure.
I mean, I'll put nets and windscreen up as we get in there. Pretty good about that.
Okay. I guess the first date would be weather dependent. I personally have some questions about this. To make sure that high school students, faculty, staff, what that does mean.
Said you weren't going to approve anything unless they were here.
I agree. I was going to vote no, but that's just me.
And it,
I think if we don't approve the February timeframe for next, allow for the school to advertise for the pickleball club in their letter.
still gonna have snow.
Agree.
That's just my take. I mean, personally, I would like a little more. Who are you inviting? Staff, faculty, all the above.
Please.
Yeah.
Because it's new, we don't really know much about it at all.
That's just my take. Does anybody else have thoughts?
He does mention students.
Yeah, I would like to kick them back to the
What?
yeah,
I do too.
that leads us to the last request for today. Resident pickleball league. Resident reserve pickleball courts at Pleasant View. For resident pickleball, dates are Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 5 o'clock to sunset. The nets are up.
I'd like to say, go back and recommend that request to the rec department, that it's not in the right wheelhouse, that it should be the rec department and request to have an expanded league more competitive. Advanced.
Is that what this request is?
Essentially, it's a group, in their request, they said they've outgrown the Franklin League, recreation league, and so they want to start their own, but this is a private citizen who's bringing it, no finances back to our city through the school department. We also have it would be limiting the park for the duration of 2 days out of the week. I don't think that like parks.
I don't think so. I mean, I would say no to this. It's not on the thought process. Sure, another group that comes in on Wednesdays. Nobody wants Fridays. That's what we did last year.
And you won't have any open play.
Correct, and that just takes everything out. So I would say no. I mean, if this is a branch of the rec department, we should work with the rec department and get one of the courts out of the and that they have reserved on the league. Those advanced are out of there.
So would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Wait a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
So can I just ask, so how does this get back to her if we're not approving the request?
I follow up with an email. I can send them the minutes available as well, but I'll let her know that session. So.
Yes, sir.
Could I ask them, courts at Fleming Park, they haven't been any requests asked for them?
Does that come through here?
No.
I just think so.
Typically, the county, I believe the only ones they reserve typically are play, but generally,
Is that the only county park in Franklin that has access to pickleball court?
yes.
Well, we have the sports complex.
Oh, outside of the sports complex. Okay.
Excellent. Well, there's nothing further.
I just have one thing, sorry. So Owen hasn't been at like the last few meetings. Is there anything that you do to contact him? Does he still want to be on the committee, or how does that work?
There isn't like a limitation number of rules.
Okay.
But I would happy to follow up with what's going on because I don't know what's up. I don't think he's contacted Gail. So
He used to let one of them.
Yeah.
yeah,
I was just curious. And this, is it, then it
I think he's a pilot, so I think.
Yeah.
No, it's a vote for no, because we cannot. So it's a vote for
The motion. So,
no
yes.
motion.
If there's nothing further, I think the next meeting was February 12th. We'll adjourn till then. Thank you, everybody.